The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Star Connor, your host for Insights this weekend. And today I have with me Lieutenant Stuart Sharp. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Star?
Good. A lot of topics, a lot of important issues in the 4 counties you cover.
Correct.
Right. And I wanted to start today about talking about you guys' budget. I know there's some issues that's coming up with that. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about you guys' hunting budget, of course.
Well, you know, it's very important to know that Hunt is a multi-jurisdictional task force. That means we're comprised of members from, in our case, 4 counties, Alpena, Alcona, Presque-Isle, and Montmorency. They can participate by giving us an officer and financially. And both of those contributions are incredibly important for the work that we do.
Right, and going over some things, me and you've had previous discussions in the past. What was your budget proposal actually for this year?
This year, I propose that each entity that participates in our task force provides $15,252 on top of their officer contribution.
And why do you think you guys are running into some issues? And I guess what are some issues you guys are running into?
There are some entities that don't participate. There are some entities that do not provide the full funding amount, the requested amount. There's a lot of politics that are involved in obtaining that funding, and it's very necessary to operate our team.
Right, and you talk about operating. People don't realize what your budget actually does. Break down, like, I guess, a specific way how this runs. Like, you know, how you said you have a state police, you have, you know, your duties too as well, and other things like that. I guess break that down for people that don't understand.
It's fairly complicated, but the team, I am the commander, and I'm from the Michigan State Police. The assistant team commander is a detective sergeant from the Michigan State Police. There's another member from the Michigan State Police on the team, and then we have officers from the other entities that choose to participate. Wages are dependent upon the individual department, so the state police pay my wages. If someone's from the city of Alpena, their wages are paid by the city of Alpena, the entity that they work for. The operating costs for the team are what's borne upon me in my budget. However, we do report those funds that are required for the officers' wages because that is a portion of the team, but it's not something that I control. And what I do control is administrative assistant, legal fees, vehicles, cell phones, investigative tools that we use, equipment, and we do train officers. We give them at least 4 additional trainings to what they had previously before they came upon the team. Those are necessary to function on our team. So those costs are covered somewhat by a federal Burn JAG grant. The remaining monies I break down in a budget and request that each entity pay that. And that's how I came to the $15,252 this year.
Right, but the importance, a lot of people do not understand of budget means everything when you're doing a job like you guys are doing. And it takes a budget to get things under control. Like, I know me and you actually recently went on a meth lab bust, and that costs funding to get things transported to where they need to be and things like that. I mean, how important is it that people understand that you need your budget?
You know, I cannot express how important it is. There's a lot of misnomers out in the public about what the Hunt team does. Right. People think that we're trying to stop someone with cancer from smoking marijuana. They think that we have some other agendas, and that's not the truth. Last year, 52,000 people died of overdoses in the United States. That's more than traffic crashes. And this is not the 1980s. We are just inundated with some horrific chemicals. And last night was a prime example of what it entails. You got to come out firsthand and observe what we had to do. And that's a daily basis for us. we spend the majority of our shift debating a meth lab, and most likely there'll be no charges in relationship to what we've done with that meth lab. So to me and my team, that's just a flat-out expense.
Right. And why do you think some people have, I guess, put a halt or a pause on their, contributing to Hunt? Why do you think that is?
I really don't have an explanation to why a certain entity would do what they would do, and I think that there is a misconception of what is actually going on in the public, and I really view myself as the doom and gloom guy. And officers that come out to our team, who are relatively new to the team, will tell you that they're absolutely blown away at the amount of these invasive drugs in our community. As a street officer, they had no idea. When they come to Hunt, it's an incredible disillusionment is what it is.
Right. And I mean, like you said, I myself personally wouldn't probably understand budget, and somebody probably watching this show right now wouldn't understand budget, but I know it's needed. And I know you guys are provided grants and other things that way and stuff like that, but when it comes down to the sources needed, people just need to know that they're needed to continue your job, because if there's no Hunt team here, there's going to be more drugs on the street, correct?
Every crime has a nexus to some sort of drug, be it alcohol or drugs. And we, as the Hunt team, are involved in a vast amount of the crimes and the investigation of those crimes in our communities by virtue of what we do.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, where do we go from here as a community? Where do you go from here, knowing that you do need this budget, knowing that you do need this organization here? What can we do as a community? Like, really, I mean, fundraisers, I mean, what do you think is going to happen, or what do we need to happen?
Yeah, what really needs to happen is the entities that participate with Hunt need to step up and pay and provide an officer and really look out for the community. I mean, one thing that we really should, as citizens, expect is public safety. And we, as a team, are overlooked in the process of public safety. However, we put a very high percentage of people in prison each year, opposed to the other police departments in our area. So we're involved in very significant criminal activity.
Right. Well, in part two, we're actually going to talk about that meth bust that me and you actually were on together, because like you said, people need to know exactly what Hunt does and that it's important in our community here. And you guys once again cover how many counties, and what are those counties? 4
counties: Alcona, Alpena, Presque Isle, and Montmorency counties.
All right. Well, like I said, I'm Star Connor for Insights, here with Lieutenant Stuart Sharp, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Star Connor for Insights this weekend, and I have Lieutenant Stuart Sharp with me. Once again, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Talking about a busy night. We both had a busy night. So, Lieutenant, crazy enough, me and you actually went to a meth lab bust last night as we speak. Talk a little bit about that, and that was actually a big one, and I was in shock to see so many materials out there, and that was just, crazy to know that actually happened in Alpena County.
Yeah, well, last night, and the viewers will see, how extensive the scene was. And what is most important to remember about last night is that the individual whose property this motorhome was on that had the meth lab in it, it was actually from their loved ones. The loved one was arrested downstate for manufacturing methamphetamine in possession, and they're currently lodged down there. The loved one, taking care of their people, brought their belongings up north, and luckily they were bright enough to recognize the danger signs, and some of which we've talked about in the past, and those bottles with the tubes and with the white sludge that's present. Those things are extremely hazardous, and this person was astute enough to recognize that as being dangerous and contacted law enforcement. Luckily, we were able to go and mitigate that lab and remove it from her property. But what's most important is that this doesn't just affect the person who uses the methamphetamine, right. It affects the family. Right. It affects them financially and emotionally, and this is a prime example. This person who was trying to help their loved one had to go through probably some embarrassment, some shame, and personal danger.
Right.
They could have been seriously injured or killed.
That's what I wanted to ask you too. People don't realize the dangers of meth lab. We previously went over like explosions can happen. You can touch something that can, contaminate your body and things like that. What actually, in that case, was probably the most dangerous thing I was looking at?
As specific to an item that you were looking at?
Yes.
The one pot, which would be the bottle, pop bottle, Gatorade bottle, that does not have the tube on it, and that's the where they shake the chemicals, and it creates under pressure, and it has lithium, portions of a lithium battery in it, and exposed air, they'll ignite, and it's spontaneous combustion, very close to an explosion.
Right, and how do you guys keep yourself safe when, actually dealing with these objects? I noticed that there were, safety suits and things like that. How do you guys keep yourself safe when dealing with drugs like this?
Well, the majority of the persons that were present during the last night's event are trained specifically in responding to and abating meth labs. There's some that are trained to transport the items to a different area. A pod is what we call it, is where it's a location that we secure that item, and then it's taken away by members of a private company out of Ohio that will remove that from our state.
Right, and I remember going over the Hunt book, that annual report book. You guys caught so many labs last year, and it's only 2017, and it's only May. I can't go over the numbers of how many already in this pertaining county, Alpena County, but you guys cover 4 counties like we talked about. But how many has it been already in 2017?
I've quite frankly lost count. I believe we're at 9 labs, and that's kind of a guess. Mm-hmm. We have other cases that are related to methamphetamine, and that's through the purchase of pseudoephedrine and things that lead us, the purchase of precursors that lead us to the lab. So extremely busy. And you see last night, majority of our day and some of today is spent on one lab. So if you consider how many labs we're running into, it's eating a lot of our time up.
Right, and that goes back to budget.
It does. It's a big expense, manpower, equipment, and abating the lab itself. It's very costly to our community.
Right, and my thing is, I want people to know, like I said, this is no 9-to-5 job. You called me around 9 o'clock at night. I'm not going to give any details into all that, but this is no 9-to-5 job, and people need to know the importance of, it doesn't matter. It could be your neighbor, it can be out in the middle of anywhere, and that was a prime example right there, how hard you guys work out there. And I just want to commend you on the work that you guys do, and commend you for letting me know that I can come out there and actually see what's going on in this area with that. And also with that meth lab, I noticed that it was like you said, Coke bottles and different things like that. If people see things like that, they need to contact who exactly again?
I would suggest that they call 911. There is a non-emergent phone number to Central Dispatch. That's 354-911 in Alpena County. But you could dial 911 and let people know that stuff is out there. Hunt office, the phone number is 989-356-3395. Mm-hmm. And then we are on the internet, huntteam.net. Okay. So what's very important is that they don't molest those items, don't jostle the bottles. They're under pressure, and they could spontaneously combust, and you could be seriously injured or killed.
Now, in the case that we saw last night, like you said, the people are downstate, probably busted, sitting in jail there, wherever they are. But how does it work when you guys do bust a meth lab, like per se, or whatever? I know it has its way of going. You guys to, lawyers to the judge to the court. How does that work?
Right. Just like any other police department, we investigate an incident, and we prepare documents, a police report that we submit to the local prosecuting attorney. The prosecuting attorney can authorize or decline charges on that event. We may or may not have made a probable cause arrest, so the person may or may not be in jail. And again, it's up to the prosecutor to authorize those charges. And at that point, the prosecutor is our attorney, if you will, and represents our case as it progresses through the court. Mostly, we deal with felony events, which belong in circuit court. They do, however, go to district court for a preliminary exam, then they become bound over, or they don't get bound over if there was insufficient evidence. And that circuit court is where a trial would occur.
All right. Well, thank you, Lieutenant, once again for that. And coming up in segment 3, we'll take a look at some of the products you guys should be aware of and stay away from when we return. Welcome back. I'm Star Connor for Insights, and we will now be taking a look at my journey with Lieutenant Stuart Sharp as we actually looked at some products that people should know that are dangerous. Lieutenant, you have me out here basically in the woods. What are we doing actually out here?
Well, this is springtime is the time of the year that people are going to find remnants of meth labs, and this would be an occasion where you could come across it. We have people that mushroom hunt. Everyone likes to get out and take a walk this time of year. And when you're out about on foot, you may come across some items that are indicative of a meth lab, and we ask that you don't touch them. You leave them in place and you contact the police. The byproduct, which is the hazardous waste, is illegal to have, to maintain it, and they want to get rid of it, separate themselves from that. So they will throw it in the woods, they will burn it, they discard it somewhere, and oftentimes it ends up on other people's private property or on our public lands. And everyone enjoys our public lands in northern Michigan. People from downstate come up to enjoy our public lands and the beauty that we offer. We have a lot of sporting opportunities, snowmobiling, fishing, and hunting, and unfortunately we have this plague of hazardous waste that's being discarded in our community.
All right, so Lieutenant, we are out here, and what exactly am I looking at down here?
Well, this is what can be found on any normal roadway. There's this debris, what the normal person would think are some discarded bottles. In all actuality, when you run across a bottle that has a tube and some white or gray sludge in it, that's a gas generator used in the production of a portion of methamphetamine.
Wow. So what does the tube actually do?
That releases gases and creates the actual methamphetamine. Okay. This would represent what's called a one pot, where the actual meth is produced. And those black strips would be somewhat similar to a lithium battery strip. This is extremely dangerous. It's not classified as explosive, but it does catch on fire extremely fast like an explosion. Okay. Very violent, and if this was a real meth lab, you would have to burp it or release some of the gases. Otherwise, it would expand, blow up, and when the lithium strips hit the air, they catch on fire, ignite in an explosive manner. So this is what you would find, very similar to this, next to some regular debris that some uncaring soul has thrown in our beautiful areas. That is very dangerous. If you come across something like that, contact local law enforcement.
Right.
In northern Michigan, springtime brings morel mushrooms and hunting mushrooms. It's a pastime of many of our citizens, and it actually brings people in from other areas. And this is the time of year when this type of debris is easily exposed because the vegetation isn't high covering it, and people are out and about walking, and they're apt to run across it. They need to be mindful not to touch it, leave it in place, and contact law enforcement.
Right, okay.
These are some photographs of several different types of laboratories, including an MDA laboratory that we had in Alpena County, and methamphetamine labs. These empty bottles are a Powerade, Gatorade, or a sport drink bottle, and they're usually used for the one pot and the gas generator because they're a little more robust than a soda pop bottle is. And you can notice there's some very common items that we use around the home that are used in the production of methamphetamine, and fertilizer strips and some Coleman fuel. There may be some lye and other chemicals, acids and bases that are present in this photograph. This would represent what a one-pot vessel would look like. There are some different colored formulations that are on them, and they appear to be beads or what have you. And that in itself is extremely dangerous because it can explode or be explosive.
Was that kind of similar to what we were just looking at?
This would be a authentic representation of what we're looking at. Cold packs are used when we have injuries, and there's items within a cold pack that are used in the production of methamphetamine, as well as our pseudoephedrine. It could be generic or any name brand pseudoephedrine, salt, Coleman fuel again, and vessels, be it a plastic container. There's some lithium batteries that are present in this photograph. We come across debris, and much like the area we're in right now, like in the last 200 yards, we've seen a dozen black garbage bags. And when someone may be upset and approach those bags and want to take them in their vehicle, they may find that there's vessels that are consistent with methamphetamine production within those bags, and they can be explosive within their vehicle. This is the type of apparel worn by a responder from a methamphetamine response team, respirator and universal precautions throughout their body to reduce exposure to any of the chemicals. The fumes and the chemicals themselves are corrosive and can kill you. Again, just another photograph with some lithium batteries and some blister packs from our pseudoephedrine, some fuel, and another one pot.
Okay, Lieutenant, so what's some most popular drugs that you see in our counties that you cover right now?
Right now, there's the opiate-based pills, prescription pills, heroin, and methamphetamine are our biggest concerns right now. And the pills and methamphetamine are becoming quite prolific in our area.
We hope that you have a little bit more knowledge on what's going on with the drug epidemic sweeping our 4 counties. WBKB News, along with the Hunt team, wants to remind everyone to stay safe and contact MSP if they see something suspicious. Thank you for watching Insights.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.
The furniture and set design for this episode of Insights is provided by Young Appliance Art Van Furniture on US 23 South, Alpena.